us. We're going to give it a few more minutes and let some other folks trickle in, but really happy to have you here today. What's the most fun that you guys have had this summer so far?
My family visiting me in US, which is actually half fun and half scary because it was a lot of babysitting for my family. But it was good to finally have them see where I live right now and also meet my family-in-law.
Oh, nice.
How
What
about the
about you,
rest of
Zuhar?
I was working in the last few months. I mean, I take my vacations in winter. I'm a winter person. I enjoy the cold. And now in the summer, I don't like to go out. So I just walk through the summers till my winter comes.
Yeah, Jasdeep was telling us how hot it is right now in Germany. What about you, Jasdeep? Were you able to take any time, do anything fun?
Yeah, we were in Creta a month ago. That was pretty cool. Like plunge into anytime you wanted to the sea. It was kind of a luxury you don't have every day.
That sounds nice. Yeah. For me, I got to go to San Francisco for the first time for a wedding and see kind of some of the sights there, and it's been on my bucket list, so that was really fun. Got to see the redwoods, so that was also very cool.
Nice.
Was there a
My
concert
father
there?
lives.
What's that?
Was there a concert in Redford, or you just went by?
Oh no, it was like a state forest. So
Okay.
they're the world's tallest trees, but unfortunately they were impacted by wildfires in 2020. So a lot of the
Okay.
forest has burned
Shit.
down.
Yeah.
But but the trees are really resilient because of like this chemical in their bark. So they actually, even when they burn, they like don't die. Like they're still growing, which is really wild and kind of crazy. So yeah, it was pretty amazing. All right. So I think we have a good group here now. I think in the interest of time, Lynn, we could probably get started.
Yes.
All right, let's do it. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for taking time to join us from probably multiple time zones. It's a pleasure to see you online with us. So this is the continuation of our series we're calling What's Next? That's a career coaching webinar series hosted by NIU, the Network of Interdisciplinary Urbanists. Today's topic is about local municipal work. So as you guys know, maybe if you've seen our ads, we've been covering different aspects of what careers in integrated urbanism can be applied to do. We're really excited to have you online with us today. Next slide, please. So I'm sorry if I didn't introduce myself. My name is Doria Estrada. I'm one of the co-founders of NIU, and also online is Lynn. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lynn Giltinen. I'm the also communication lead for the NIU organization and also former IUSD master program student. And I just remind that this session is being recorded and will be shared on YouTube. So if you have concern sharing your image, we would suggest that you don't open your video or reach out to us after the session.
I should add that I also am an IUSD graduate from Intake 5. So yeah. But yes, today we're going to be discussing the topic of what urbanism work, integrated urbanism, sustainable urbanism work looks like in the real world. We have two panelists joining us today, Jasdeep Singh and Zuhar Al-Jundi. We'll have them give a brief introduction of themselves and their work in this field. But then most of our conversation today is actually going to be focused on a panel discussion, kind of getting to the nuts and bolts of, how they got into their field and some other kind of key questions we want to disseminate to you guys. So with that, next slide, and if you just go, and this just a little bit of background about us. So NIU is a community of interdisciplinary urban practitioners who promote integrated urbanism and sustainable design. We were organized in 2021, and we launched our first career exchange event that was funded by DAD with over 300 registrations. We're now an independent network that is close to obtaining its 501c3 nonprofit status. We have over 136 members from 13 countries, and we're always seeking collaborations worldwide. Some of you may have come to us from our platform. Definitely, I'll drop the link, or Lynn, if you want to drop the link to the platform in the chat. But however you found us, we're happy you're here today. So thanks for coming. Next slide, please. All right, so I will hand the mic over to Jasdeep to introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you. And good evening or good morning wherever you're sitting. I would like to say before I start that every now and then one or other German words would creep into my speech, because I'm usually talking a lot in German and not English in the last few years. I come from New Delhi, studied civil engineering there, and worked for the metro railways for a couple of years before moving on to study MIP in Stuttgart. I was in the same intake as Tori. We started at the same time, and then went on after my graduation to work for the Department of City Planning in Esslingen, where I had 4 years of work experience and started at my current location in Heidelberg to work as department head for pedestrian and bicycle planning. Basically, a lot of my work focuses on reshaping public spaces and promoting sustainable and non-motorized modes of transportation. Next slide, please. I have a couple of slides to show what kind of work we do here. This is one of the pictures we usually use because it's a beautiful setting in Heidelberg. And about Heidelberg, I have a couple of facts on the next page. If you could skip to the next page. About 160,000 people live in Heidelberg, a lot of commuters in and out of the city, which is quite a challenge that we have. It's one of the youngest, it is the youngest city in Germany. And thanks to the 39,000 students who study and live here. For a city this size, we have a lot of visitors because of the old city, which was not damaged in the World Wars. And this is also an added challenge that we have in the modes of transportation. But luckily, we have one of the few cities in the southern region of Germany where most of the trips are not made with motorized transport. 71% of the trips are attributed to public transport, or people go around on a bike or walk. I have an introduction about the department, so you could know a bit more about the department on the next page. We are part of Office of Mobility, a number of departments inside this office. We are one of them, and we have currently 10 employees. That's something which I forgot to change. And we have a range of work which we do. It would be probably easier, as the name says, a lot of what we do with the builder, with the photos, which we have to show the different kind of interventions and measures that we do for different kinds of fields of work. If you could show the side, the pages 4 is something which is pretty easy to see. On the left, you have a picture where everything is parked, a lot of cars parking on the pedestrian ways, and it's quite congested. And we changed the entire city, the street, and made it a bicycle street. On the right, it's a picture which is quite actual. Still shows a lot of bicycles leaning on the facade, which is something which we are trying to make better with time. But we have seen that in this street, basically in the summertime, about 8,000 cyclists were recorded. I think that was a couple of weeks ago. It's a massive change compared to the picture on the left, where we hardly had people commuting with the bicycle. This is one kind of example or intervention which we do quite often. A lot of political resistance that we get every day, but this is something which also at the end of the day you like to see when a change in the society is measurable. On the next slide, I have just a summary of different kind of bicycle projects. We'll just one of them which I wanted to highlight was a cycling highway. This is something which we took upon after we saw the success in Holland with cycling highways, where a lot of cities have connections between each other, not only for the cars, but also for cycles with a high speed, which makes it comparable to use this kind of transport with good results. And this is something which we are building upon for 2 different routes, and we want to see what kind of change do we have for longer journeys, because most of the cycling that's being done in Germany is basically for a range of 5 kilometers. We want to change that and make that measurable or comparable with cars. Yep. Sorry. We have a couple of concepts that we do. The aim is always climate neutrality till 2030, and that's why we are building upon this goal and making a concept cycling strategy 2030 with a lot of measures which could help us achieve this goal. We have a couple of other pictures on the next slide, which could you turn over to the slide 7? Yeah. This is a picture which speaks 1,000 words. When we change the pattern of the street simply by changing where the cars are allowed to park, we have seen a lot of people, a lot of pedestrians use those streets, and the attraction of the local cafes and bars and markets has significantly increased in these streets. And this is something which we keep doing to improve the local mobility. Could you go to the next? This is one of the most interesting examples of works which a municipal worker has to do. This is an old city, a complex city with a different kind of uses, a lot of heritage buildings, and you have to change the entire structure of the street without forgetting that this has an element from the past which has to be taken into consideration in the elements that you design. And we try to change the patterns of the street in a holistic way so that the functionality of the street is still there, but you could also see the architectural emphasis which the facades have. You could see on the left, people are so engraved walking on the street, watching out that they don't get run over, that they don't usually look at the buildings left or the right. On the other side, the new changes that we brought about, this was still a photo which was taken as we were still constructing, but you have a different vision of the street, and the buildings and the usages on the both sides of the street become evident. I think I have one more page, which is one of the best interventions that we got to do. We were able to shut down the highway for one day for the cars, and we made a concert. A lot of people came by, and usually such kind of events help us to show people what kind of usage for such spaces is possible. These kind of interventions also help us to make consents, also make the people aware that the streets, the public spaces are meant to be used differently, automatically also because climate change is a big challenge, and we need to change the places from streets with concrete to streets with a lot of green and blue infrastructure. I have just one slide to show. This one, which is something I would skip. I would put in a link in the chat. It's an awareness campaign that we did a couple of years ago, where we put a car parked on a pedestrian way and helped a lot of people who were passing by to put sticky notes on the car with their messages for the car owner, making them aware that every time you park on a pedestrian way, you're making the pedestrians and every people who are trying to pass by the life a bit more difficult. This is a very funny video. I could just send a link from the video. Yeah, that's about kind of a small summary of everything we do in our municipality. I'll be looking forward to the questions later on. Thank you.
So much. That statistic about having 71% of commuters come on bicycle or foot would be an absolute dream in the US for most cities. So very cool. Yeah, we'll love to dive in with some more, but Lynn, if you could just go ahead in the slides, we'll have Zuhar introduce herself next. Thank you.
Yes. First of all, Jasdeep, wow, that's a cool department to have. Funny that I would really love to invite you to Magdeburg. Magdeburg is actually one of the very good cities in cycling and cycling structure. So whenever you wanna check out for example, our bicycle high road, we call it the Elbe High Road, which connects from Dresden to Magdeburg to Hamburg. It's one of the nicest. I really want to have questions for you, but yeah, maybe in the question section. So I will just introduce myself first. I am also an IUSDian. I am the Intech 5, so I graduated in 2017. My background is in architecture, for sure, but I am always interested in this intersection between culture and placemaking. And which means in the thesis, for example, I looked into the places of memory. And in my position today, I am working on making a place of knowledge, which I will go into I'm not going to go into so much theory. So if you guys have questions for that, I will let you know. Now, currently, I know this seminar is for the local. Yeah, of course, in the chat. Yeah. Sorry, I can't multitask to read the chat and but yeah, for sure. The thing is, where was I? Yeah, I am taking a role that's called City Curator. I know this seminar is about local municipal work, but the position I have could be in the future part of the local municipalities. I am working now under a university, but my position is not an academic one. My position in itself, they are thinking if it's beneficial to have a city curator in the municipalities in the future, or if someone has, like maybe we put out some papers and people think, yeah, city curator position is always good to have when we apply for financial aid, like in a municipality level. So it's an experimental position. And I'm kind of passionate about it because for us, integrated urbanism, and this is why the seminar or this kind of seminars we are doing, because we don't know what as our job description could be like. I mean, an architect is obvious, he works in building, and an urban planner is also have really clear responsibilities. But can we have a job description for us urbanists someday in the future that's also so clear, like an architect and urban planner? And this is what city curator is. Next slide. Yes. So I will talk about from where the term comes. The term curation comes from the museum curation, where the museum curator organizes the artwork inside of a museum. However, a city curator is similar, but he organizes the uses. So the urban planner organizes the uses top down. A city curator organizes the uses bottom up. So, and why you need to be an urbanist? Because if you need to have this background of stakeholder analysis and site analysis. A museum curator only works in the department of art history. We work a lot with stakeholder analysis and site analysis. So that's why it's one of the jobs that really need integrated urbanism. So I'm currently under a research project called there's a big research initiative called Transport. It has many stations, and one of these workstations is Transcape, where I'm currently at. So just to say, and our Transcape aim is to regenerate a place through culture. The thing is, this is the thing that if you need a one takeaway from what a city curator does, a city curator looks for opportunities for collaboration with stakeholders to regenerate a place. So so a curator should see what kind of opportunities between the local urban actors or local Vereine, community-based organizations, and he also leads it in a way that he has a place-specific vision. I will give let's just say now I'm giving a case study, but it doesn't need to be always like that. But this is, for example, what I am currently working on. I am working in a place called Seinsport. In German is Wissenschaftshafen. So the Seinsport used to be a trading port but then it lost its function as a trading port. And people then find, yeah, it's a cheap place to move in with the big research facilities like Fraunhofer and university laboratories. So they moved in that trading port. And someone had the idea 10 years ago, yeah, let's call it a science port, and let's make it a place of knowledge, a place of science. So that's where the idea comes for this whole initiative, transport initiative. And our small part as Transcape, we want to make a cultural place of knowledge. So if I come back, what am I doing? I'm finding collaboration with a place-specific vision. So collaboration in the making a place of knowledge are academic, mostly academic, like between professor, students, local research facilities, but it's also can open up to the people who are enthusiastic on history of the place, or any Far'ani, local Far'ani could be part of it. But the most collaborators are within the sphere of academics, but it's open for everyone. And yeah, the vision is to make a meeting point or a place of serendipity. It's the English word I cannot pronounce, but it's a place where, you know, happy accidents happens when you go talk to a person in a lunchtime and then he solves your problem through a small talk. I don't know, this kind of small happy accidents, this is a place of serendipity. And you need lots of activities done so to bring people in that place. So you like this kind of serendipity can come out. So this is the what. The what is, let's make a place of knowledge. The how, and here is the bottom-up approach. The how is through testing out participatory formats. So I test out, for example, from the US context, there is something called town hall meeting. That's a US specific participatory format. So let's just say, okay, let's do that here. Let's see what happens if we invited all the Far'ain and we call it town hall meeting. Come in, bring your ideas in, and let's see what kind of collaboration that could come out from a town hall meeting. So that's a test. Also, co-creation is part of the terms we use. Engaged learning. Engaged learning is also specific for the university context, which means that you can be, as a student, part of a seminar that does something in the science port. So you get credits for it. So this is engaged learning. You are getting credits for stuff you're doing in the science port. So you're part also making the science port alive with your projects, student projects. I mean, it's open what kind of projects. Doesn't need to be urbanist. It could be in informatics, it could be in science, could be in policy. We are also inviting students to tell us about their theses, and maybe we can help them like making science port, for example, a case study. Also, we do participate in local festivals, like we open up a tent and we talk to people, or we do some kind of small workshops. And also we are planning this year to make a Christmas market with the theme of science, and let's see what happens. Like I'm still planning for that. Next slide. So this is like kind of just more, so you guys have like a more visual way how the science port look like. It looked like this. It has a really huge place, and it stretches out actually a kilometer upwards. But I'm still starting in this part. I'm gonna stretch my work now. And each of these projects are a collaboration. Like it comes up either from a collaboration, or we had this idea and we found that partners that make the idea with us. So for example, this Bauwerkstatt or Bau workshop is a collaboration between us and a student body called Intact, and also with the owner of the property. So who gave us his property for free, because not all of these properties are city properties. Some are private. And also this is where collaboration idea comes, co-creation comes on. So collaboration between private, city, university. There's this three ways, and also businesses. If there are businesses, they are also welcome to have like we act as a what's a vermittler, in betweenness person between all of these people. Yeah, I mean, this is in short. I mean, in the last slide, if you go next, this is the name of the initiative. The website is called Transport, but it's only in German. And like I said, it's really an open-ended project. it's always open, even for I mean, we are currently most likely working with local actors, but today I just talked to a person who does the European-wide children's cities. It's like an event for children that they try how to do city. But it's a cute project, but we can also collaborate in a European-wide, and it's open to internationals for sure. If someone has an idea, please send a message. Here's the email. And yeah, that's from my part. If you guys have questions, yeah, I can say we can go to the Q&A session.
Thank you so much. Very interesting and very like multi-layered. Yeah, very, very cool initiative. So we'll move into the panel discussion portion now. If any of the attendees have been in on our past sessions, they'll know that we really value this series as a way to kind of dive into the nitty-gritty of not just what you're doing, but how you got there, and kind of acting as a guide for folks that might be interested in entering these types of fields. So yeah, the first question, I think I'll just pull it up from here, Lynn, is for both of you. How did you decide to pursue the field or position that you're currently in?
We
Everyone's
want to
go.
start? Okay. I was involved in metro projects, and I was involved as a civil engineer, and I saw that there's more to it just doing one project, kind of in between, and you don't have the complete scope, and you don't have the view of the entire city, and that fascinated me to be able to bring things together so that a city functions and it becomes better. And that was something which led on to me applying for the course MIP and going on to work for the city of Esslingen, smaller city, but you have always the chance to get into these kind of role without a lot of pressure. That's one of the biggest things which I always recommend people not to go to a private architectural bureau because you have a pressure to deliver and you don't have chance to learn stuff. With a public institution, you do get to work on projects with people who are very experienced, and there is not the time constraint. The quality is something which is important. This is something which I could pass on as advice. So, you want to say something?
And no, I have no. Yeah, maybe I will when the open questions comes. For me, this is a position that only 2 in the whole of Germany has. The other one is in Hamburg, so it's a quite very specific. But how did I find it? This is the thing. I am interested in culture. So I did, for example, I got a funding for studying the making of comics in the Syrian context after the war. So I always follow cultural studies, and I did try to find internships first. Like I want an internship in cultural study ways, or what kind of jobs in of cultural studies. So I landed on the page. This is because I'm looking for cultural studies work. But they said, like, we are interested and open for other candidates, but also we want someone who understands cities. I was like, hello, I'm an architect. I actually thought that they don't need an architect, and they were surprised. This is the funny thing. They were surprised that I have urban studies and architecture together. I mean, for example, they never heard of urban studies. They don't know. They have a position in mind. They know what kinds of things that could work because the person who wrote the position is not a person who studied architecture or urban studies. It's someone who studied the Anglistic, actually, English studies. So it's just but English studies, but she was like interested in the London. So she was interested in cities, but it's not there. So it was surprising for them to someone that applied from IUSD or like an integrated urban study, and nobody applied other than me in that. Maybe the other candidates were urban with cultural studies. I had really this unique perspective of architecture, and that's why like I got the job. It's just like I was like, because of my interest in culture. So it's really, I know this question to say how people can get my job, but I would say this job is not to get, it's job to create. And this is why we're making a seminar. This job, you can, if you write a funding proposal, for example, and you say, I want to regenerate this place and I want to work as in a city curation way, and then maybe you create your position as a city curator in the next municipality. So this is a job that should be like, it's not talked about yet. It should be, we should talk about it more and more, and maybe write proposals and get research funds or position funds to make up our own positions. So yeah.
Really interesting point. And I was just thinking, for both of you, at least from the US context, or maybe even North America in general, your positions at the city level would usually be housed under something like community and urban development. But it's such a wide ranging department in most cities. Zuhar, like economic development is kind of what you're doing, but it definitely doesn't speak in its title to like all the cultural elements. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that it's sort of buried in there and that you might have to like build it out yourself. That's a really interesting point. This next question is like very related, I think, to what you just spoke on, but a little more specific. So how or where did you find the current position or opportunity that you have now?
Yeah, that was like, I open up always the when you look for there's this really cool, what's it called? Maybe I should have prepared the website. There is one of the best websites to find cultural studies called but it's in German, Kultur platform. So there is a platform that announces that kind of jobs. Maybe I will search it for it. Just Jasdeep can answer the question, but I will search quickly for the platform where it was announced. But it's a really cool platform, and I really suggest everyone to check it out from time to time. But where's the mouse? Yeah, the mouse is here. Yeah.
From the local newspaper, I got the vacancy. I could say there's a lot of jobs in Germany for if you want to work in the municipalities. Just need to look at the right places. It's actually the other way around. Dori, you said that it's quite difficult to find a job in this sector. In Germany, there's a lack of skilled people, and they keep looking for people who could fill in the situation or the positions here. For me, it was the local newspaper in Stuttgart.
That's very interesting to hear. That's encouraging, though, for folks that are in Germany. And maybe I do want to address the question in the chat that we got from Stephanie, but maybe you could tell us both a little bit about your overall application process and any interview process that was part of you finding your position.
Yes, maybe I answer first. I did put a Kulturtweet. It's called Kulturtweet, Stellenmarkt für Geist, Kultur und Sozialwissenschaftler. That's where I found the job. The process was pretty classic. There was an interview, an on-site interview, so I had to travel in the same day from Stuttgart to Magdeburg. And there was like a few questions about my background. They were very interested why I was like in a cultural studies part of my journey, because I am architect for 5 years, but I did stuff on the side. So they were interested in the stuff on the sides, you know, like, oh, you did the research in comics? Yeah, that's interesting. Tell us more about it. Or how do you think, like, for example, one of the questions where it was like, are you afraid of speaking in front of gremium? A gremium it's like what's a gremium? It's a good question.
Legislative Assembly.
Yeah. For example, am I afraid of speaking in public, like public speaking, or some kind of really formal speaking? I was like, dude, I do stand-up comedy on the side. Like, this is where I live. So that kind of, also my hobbies kind of came to in that job interview. Like, and then I told them how you can do a joke in stand-up. I don't know. It was like a fun interview. But yeah, parts, I really encourage people, and this is it, like, really, if you are passionate about something, even like a hobby, you never know how can this hobby really comes up in the interview and be part of what makes people excited about you. So yeah.
I would just add a couple of things to what you said. I have also switched the roles from someone who applies for jobs to someone who hires people. And we usually look at two things when we hire people. One is obviously English or German in this case, the language. The most important thing is not the fluency of the language, but the will to improve it. The second aspect is, I think, the most important one. We give a couple of questions which are linked to the practicality of urbanism, where we test them out We don't want the right answer. We want to just see if the pathway the person takes is right or not. We won't say, okay, there's a couple of rules and regulations which you not regard in your answer. We just say, is the person thinking in the right way? And this is something which often comes across because um, there's always time for the people to learn rules and regulations from every country. You cannot learn is the basic theory and foundation because you just get that once when you start off. And this is something which we always focus on when we look for new people. And this was something which always was true in my case in Esslingen and Heidelberg also.
Thank you. We do have a couple questions in the chat. I know we have like another couple of questions from our side, Lynn, but maybe to get to these folks first. Stephanie for Jasdeep, she's asking, how long do planned and then implemented projects usually take, e.g. for the pedestrian and cycle street you have shown?
It depends on the street and the impact. We have certain streets which are pretty normal streets, and you know that when you plan these things, you could usually get them implemented in a couple of months. But there are certain streets where you have to change the entire dynamics of the street. You have to change the canals, the street lightings and stuff like that. And then it takes 3 or 4 years of time to plan and implement. So it ranges from between a couple of months or a couple of years. And some cases like the bridges, we're planning a couple of cycling bridges, a span of 7 to 8 years because you have to get all the bureaucracy and stuff done before you build these things.
Permits, permitting process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a doozy. Yeah. And then I think this one's kind of for you, Zuhar. Antonius is saying, as a social scientist, a mix of sociology and political science at my university in Magdeburg, I'm interested if aspects from this field played a role in your job, even if you studied something different.
If aspects from this field, the field of social science, you mean?
I think
Maybe
that's what he's implying. Yeah.
social. The thing is the people who, my colleagues are social scientists. So the engaged learning, for example, is a terminology from social science. And Dr. I don't know if you know him, Antonios, Dr. Alexander Schmelka, maybe you studied under him. So he is one of the actually people who are working in that landscape project, and he brings in the engaged learning thema from the social science. So it's the thing is about interdisciplinary is not anyway, it's not anymore about what you studied before. It's about like how do you work good enough with other disciplines sometimes. So the biggest aspect is social science in our field. And I'm learning as well. I'm still learning. I came from architecture and urban studies, and we do things differently, let's just say. And it's just you learn on the job how to collaborate. Sometimes you just need to be open. It's okay to say, yeah, I don't understand from my colleague Dr. Schmelka. Yeah, I don't understand what is engaged learning from social science. I'm not social science. Please explain to me, and so I can assist you more. So it's always the questioning, the stupid questions is part of the work. So yeah, and if you are a student and you want to do stuff with us in Magdeburg, you are welcome to, like, there is a budget, like there's a small budget for any Magdeburg students if they want to do something in science sports. So if you have ideas, please write me an email. I'll write my email. I mean, I did write the email, but just to say, if someone from Magdeburg and a student, this is just, I want to advertise it out there. So we are looking for students that collaborate with us and do their project with us.
And I think Lynn will include all that in the follow-up slides to the folks that registered. Jasdeep, we got a question for you, but I actually, Zuhar's comment just made me think, I remember you told us that you actually have a position open in your department. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
We have a couple of positions. Was the question for Zuhar or for me?
No, I think it's for just, I think it's not
for
me.
you, Jasdeep. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a couple of positions open in my department. One of them is a planner for cycling role, and the other one is for holistic role, local mobility, and we look for people who are. There's a specific thing in Germany. It's called Verkehrsplanung, as transport planning. But we don't usually think that only transport planners are fit for the role. We also think people who have a background of urban planning could pass into the role because the think processes are so similar. And these roles basically are there to lead projects which have a future to be implemented in the next 5 to 6 years. But the position is not limited to the next few years. It could be that you join us and are there till you retire. And one of the things which is quite important when you make such an application is you have to have a very good cover letter. I think resume is something which should be legible, yeah, but we don't pay too much attention to what's written in the resume. It's more something like a cover letters. I think I have this experience in the last few years. You could read a letter and you can see how much time the person has given to research about the role, about the city, about the kind of jobs these persons have to do. And it helps you as a person when you research the entire thing to find out about the city and the role, and then decide, or do you really want to join this city and take this position? And it helps us to understand what kind of needs do you have and what do you bring to the team.
Antonius had a question also specifically for you, Jasdeep. He said, do you also look to other cities for inspiration or ideas? Amsterdam always comes to mind when I think of a city that changed its priority from cars to pedestrian, bikes, and public transport. Is that city a sort of role model for your work?
Basically, a lot of European cities. I would say we have a number of cities in Holland, Amsterdam, Utrecht. We have also a couple of cities, Barcelona and Copenhagen, for example, which we look at. Jan Gehl was also in the university as was still learning. He gave a lecture. And so these kinds of things are very interesting because on the EU level, you usually get to make partner cities and collaborate on projects. We are doing that. There's a European project called Reallocate. In this project, we're trying to make a super block, and we have Barcelona on our side. So it helps us to sell something in the legislative assembly when a European city has done that. And we keep looking for examples everywhere, not only in Europe. Probably you could look at some cities also in Asia, not so much in the US, except for a couple of places in New York, maybe.
Lynn and I are laughing because we know how car-centric it is here. Understandable. Lynn, I'm going to pluck one of our questions, but I would just encourage the folks that are online to keep the questions coming. We still got time. So you both come from an international background and then ended up staying in Germany after your studies to work. So I just wanted to ask, how has that been integrating into a local government initially as a foreigner? Apart from the language, have you been able to leverage some of your strengths in being from an international background? And maybe what are some of the challenges and rewards from that?
It's quite an interesting question.
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
At the start, it was quite different because they have different rules here compared to what I had in India, how the system works, how a legislative assembly works, and what are the elective representatives. I think it's the same. You can ask someone from the USA, they have completely different rules. It took a lot of time. That was a challenge. I think this is a challenge that you always have as an international person joining a municipality in Germany. But other than that, it usually helps you because you have a different mindset to bring something new to the team. And this is something which we appreciate a lot. There's a couple of people who worked with me, another one who's done MIP, who's working in my department. And I think it brings a different kind of dynamic, and this is something which people appreciate over the period of time, that people come from different parts of the world and bring different think processes and perspectives, and in the long run, when you have mastered the language and you know what the rules are, how a system works, you are on a level playing field.
What about you, Zuhar?
Yeah. I mean, in the whole of Germany, I mean, I lived in Stuttgart for 9 years, and I chose Germany as my second home, because yeah, obviously my background is Syrian, so I need to find a second home. So that was like a geschlossene Sache. This is something that I decided a long time ago, that to have Germany as my home, and the challenges are big, but I am like quite fortunate. Let's just say I always have people who are encouraging. Although right now, I am working now within Magdeburg, which is, if people know, it's eastern cities. It's known that it's hostile to foreigners, but that's what the project's trying to change. I mean, one of the idea that encouraged them to hire me is also because I'm an international, and as a face of the project, because I'm the one who is always facing the people, talking to them, I could like really change the perspective, and really, because Magdeburg is in the next few years gonna be an important industrial place with Intel. I don't know if you heard of the Intel which fabric. They're gonna open up a big fabric, and they're gonna get a lot, especially they had like for now, yeah, they are going very international, and next 2 weeks in the international 15th of August is the International Indian Independence Day, I think. They're gonna open up an office just for Magdeburg Indians, for example, like that kind of cool stuff. And they are opening up, and they are, let's just say, yeah, I mean, it's a slow process, but this is, yeah, why you're there. Like, just show them you're there, and and that's, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe another question from here is, so what is, in your opinion, the most valuable thing or kind of change that you can make by working in the municipal government kind of sector?
I think the biggest change, or which I could personally count for myself, is you could actually change stuff rapidly. You're just not thinking about stuff, putting it on paper. You go out there, you defend it, win people over, and get those things on the streets. This is something which only happens in the municipalities. And if you have the goal of climate zero, you can only achieve it if the communities and also the municipalities are there and work on it. The governments on the national level could make policies, but they are useless if there's no one there to implement them. This is something which I think, compared to the work I've done in the past, a massive change, something which I appreciate a lot.
I cannot add more, because I am like in this in a weird gray area between municipality and research project. A research about what local municipality could do in the future. It's really I cannot add more. I really seeing change happens. Like now we are building some banks, like some Stadtmobil, so because there's no places to sit in the science port, and so there are a few areas that we can, like, you can build it with people and you see it. Like, wow, this is really cool to see, and it's fast. Like the change is fast, like Jasdeep just said. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, I meant to add this in my own brief introduction, but I also work at a local government in the United States in Maryland. And when I describe my role to people, I tell them that this is where the rubber really meets the road. Sometimes when you work in the private sector and you're working on sustainability topics, you don't always have control about when or how that's going to get implemented on the ground. But when you are in the hot seat at the local level, you're responsible for implementing that. So yeah, like you all said, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen under your watch. So it's a very exciting place to be. All right, and then Lynn, I'm going to go back to our panel slide here. So we had a general question for you both. What, if any, advice on career or job searches would you give to IUSD students or graduates of similar programs who might be job hunting?
don't give up, don't get disheartened if you have a couple of rejections. It's usual. I know people who had like 30 interviews before they got a very good job. Usually it helps to get this kind of confidence to be able to talk in German and put your ideas out for the people who are judging you. Don't look for jobs because you just want to get employed. There are a lot of jobs out there for people who've done IST. I know a couple of people who have done brilliant roles after doing IUST and MIP. You have the visions because you have had a very good 2 years master's program to change the world. Look for the perfect jobs. There are a lot of them out there in Germany. And if you want any kind of advice, how to put out a cover letter, or write a resume, you can get in touch with me. I could help you out, except for the part where you want to apply for a position in my city. In that case, I would have to sit out.
Conflict of interest. That's a really nice offer, though. I hope the people listening might take you up on that. What about you, Zuhar?
I cannot. I mean, I would just say second. I second Jasdeep about not giving up. Just to be like vulnerable here, I worked in architecture in a dead-end job for 5 years. It's not, I was building malls. Malls. It's not my first passion, let's say, to build a mall or hotels. But I needed it. I am a person living alone in Germany, so I need to finance myself, and that part of it's okay to have a few hindrance, what's a hindrance? Why am I talking? It's like about kind of blocks in the career, but always on the side have something that makes you alive. Like as I working in architecture, I was drawing comics sometimes, and then from drawing comics, I had this idea to do a research project, and I got then like a funding for it. And then as I'm working in architecture, I also did my hobby, which is stand-up comedy, it didn't lead to this job, but it led the spirit. The right person to do that job is inside of me because of stand-up comedy. So always, whatever you are currently doing, just keep the light, the passion somehow, even in the side, and hopefully it will collide with your dream job, I would say, someday.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's super important that, our job is the title that we have to wear, 8, sometimes 9 or more hours per day, unfortunately, if it's a long day, but it's not all of who we are and it's not all of our professional interests and passions. So it's a really, really nice point. Thank you for saying that. Are there any other questions from our audience members while we still have some minutes together? Y'all are a little quiet and shy today. Lynn,
I can ask a
go
question.
ahead. Yeah.
Because it's my opportunity to ask Jasdeep. Is it part of your strategy making stations like e-bike station and repair station along the roads that you guys are planning?
Yeah, we did plan some of them last year, and we did bring about in every city's district we have a repair station already, and we have about I think 1 million users who use the ride sharing for bike sharing application to find a bike on the streets, on the stations, and we're expanding it in a couple of years to have also e-bikes and cargo bikes because we feel you have different kinds of needs. I know a lot of people travel a limited distance, but if you are traveling with kids or you want to go buy supplies, you could also use cargo bikes, and all those things would be implemented in a couple of years. It's when the money is there.
Yeah, cool. I mean, you are working in the whole of Heidelberg. I am on the other side, working just in one small neighborhood that I feel it needs a bike station, guys. So this is kind of I don't know. Do you have I don't know if it's can you give me maybe you can talk in an email later, but if you can advise me
sure.
how as a neighbor, as a person like for a neighborhood, can I apply to our local department to have a station, for example, if that possibility happens? I don't know if already happens in Heidelberg, but I think that if so, a person says I need a station here, so it comes and apply, and then the bike department had them on the strategy.
We take the offer up, check the feasibility. In a lot of cases, we do set up the stations. We have, I think,
Mhm.
I think over 100 stations already in Heidelberg.
Mhm.
Uh, like I said, it's a city which invests a lot of money for cycling and pedestrian ways.
Mm.
Probably also because it has been in the mentality of the people here. It's something different from Stuttgart, maybe because a lot of people come from the automobile industry there. It
Mm.
is something here, and a lot of people work for the university or in the medical branches, and there are also a lot of people who work for SAP on stuff, and uh, they are probably different from the people in the rest of the region.
Mhm.
And this liberal thinking also
Mm.
changes the attitude, how you view your automobile, if it's a precious element for you to have it, or is it
Mm.
something which is just parked and which only used once in a while.
Cool. Interesting. Okay. Mm.
Any last questions from our audience members? As we said, you'll be receiving the slides and the contact information from our speakers, who I think would be more than happy to connect with you after. Lynn, do you mind opening up the slides just so we can close out with a couple other announcements?
Yes, one moment.
One, I thank you both so much today. I think that you really hit the nail on the head as far as how this integrated degree that you have obtained has actually, been a bridge to what you're doing now. As we said in the beginning, this session is really meant to demonstrate to folks who have a degree like IUSD, but anything that kind of deals with sustainability or urbanism, how that can be applied practically in the real world is what we're trying to really shine a light on with this session. And I should add, this topic was incredibly popular, and as Lynn and I have been organizing speakers around it, you all can potentially look forward to a round 2 on this topic sometime in the fall. Thanks. Lynn was just showing the QR code for the new platform. So feel free. We would love if you're not already on there, please join it. It's a great way to connect to fellow alumni and professionals from these various fields. There's a lot of information on there. And we try to push things out in the jobs board. And also there's a mentoring opportunity button on there if you would like to mentor folks or be mentored yourself. So please join. Next slide. So yeah, Lynn, you just want to explain that we're going on break for a sec?
Yeah, so since August is a very popular vacation month, aside from Zuhar because she likes winter. So yeah, we decided to give everybody a break. And then we will regroup on September to continue on discussion on local municipal work.
Yep. And so we'll see you all again in late September, where we likely are going to have round 2 from our public sector. But also coming up, we're going to be covering folks that are working in the areas of NGO, nonprofits, and community-based organizations, as well as folks that are applying this degree in a freelance design, cooperative, or social enterprise type job. So if that is of interest to you, please do join. We have a really cool lineup of speakers that are also from our fields that are going to be talking about that. So I'm going to go to the last slide.
Yes.
All right, so our call.
Yes, we will now always letting people just sit in the back seat. We also want to get people have a chance to shine. So if you happen to be one of these sector that we're going to plan for the next session, and you wanted to share your experience and how you find your work, what motivates you, and also kind of just like all the nitty-gritty detail that Jasdeep and Zuhar have shared, which is that for me, it's very inspiring. And also we want to that all the audience that who joined today's or like be part of our group to be able to share their journey as well. So please shoot us an email and we will try to get in touch with you as soon as we can.
Awesome. So just want to thank everyone again for your attendance today. This was really great. Thank you so much to Jasdeep and Zuhar. It was so great to see you both again. I hope everyone has a really nice, restful August. And as we said, we'll be in touch with a follow-up. We'll be in touch with a follow-up soon, later this week. But thank you guys so much. Have a good rest of your night and afternoon. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.